All right, so today we're going to do something a little different. We're diving into a huge concept in economics, investment, but we're going to look at it through the lens of this beautiful old fable. See, this story isn't just about numbers. It's about how form and content can work together perfectly to make something complex feel totally clear. So picture this. Our story starts in this amazing garden, just filled with wisdom. The lion, who's the king of the forest, he sees this bee just working nonstop. And he turns to the wise old turtle and asks a question that seems simple but is actually incredibly deep. He's wondering, if the goal is just to eat today, why work so hard for a tomorrow that isn't even here yet? And right there, with that one question, the lion has basically set up the central riddle for this whole explainer. He's not really just asking about a bee. He's asking about something much bigger, about progress, about ambition, and why we even bother to look beyond what we need right now. I mean, let's put it another way. Why would you ever build or create or save anything if you already have enough for today? It's a huge question, right? And honestly, it's the mystery that drives pretty much every economy on the planet. And this is where the turtle comes in. She's the voice of wisdom in our story. She's the one who's going to unpack this whole riddle, not just for the lion, but for all of us, by introducing one single really powerful idea. And here it is, the turtle's answer. She explains that what the bee is doing has a name. It's called investment. It's not about spending for today. It's about using resources with a very specific goal in mind to build a bigger, better, more productive future. The turtle then uses this absolutely perfect metaphor to make her point. She says, look, consumption, that's like eating the fruit. It's great, it satisfies you right now. But investment, that's like planting the tree. It takes a little patience, a little foresight, but the reward down the line is so much bigger. It's the choice between eating the seed now or planting it to grow an entire forest for tomorrow. But the turtle doesn't stop there. Her wisdom goes even deeper. She explains that investment isn't just one monolithic idea. No, it actually shows up in two very distinct forms. And each one has its own logic, its own math, its own beautiful shape. So the first form we're introduced to is called autonomous investment. And just like the name says, it's autonomous. It's totally independent. Think of it as an investment based on a fixed plan, a decision you make ahead of time, and you stick to it no matter what. Now, the fable presents its mathematical form not as some dry equation, but more like a declaration. I, for investment, simply equals I naught, which is just a fixed, predetermined amount. The point is, this level of spending doesn't change with the day-to-day ups and downs. The plan is locked in. And if you were to draw a picture of this idea, what would it look like? It would just be a perfectly straight, flat, horizontal line. It doesn't matter how much income goes up or down along the bottom. This kind of investment stays constant, steady, committed. Okay, so the second form is a whole different animal. It's called induced investment. And unlike its autonomous cousin, this type is responsive. It pays attention to what's going on in the world around it, and it adapts. You can see this right away in its mathematical form, which tells a much more dynamic story. It starts with that same fixed foundational part, that I naught we just talked about, but then it adds this new responsive element. This means the total level of investment is now induced by, or, dependent on, changes in the economy. Let's break this down real quick. That I, 0, is this stable autonomous base we already know. Y stands for income, and D is the really interesting part. It's called the marginal propensity to invest, which is just a fancy way of saying how responsive you are. So for example, if D is 0.2, it just means that for every extra dollar of income that comes in, you're going to reinvest 20 cents. So you have a solid foundation, plus this built-in readiness to grow. So what does this one look like on a graph? Well, it's the complete opposite of that flat line. This is an ascending line that climbs up and to the right. It starts at that foundational level, I naught, and then it just rises as income grows. It perfectly captures that spirit of optimism and response to good times. So now the fable brings this whole theory to life. The bee, the very same creature that got the lion thinking in the first place, she comes forward to testify, acting as the living, breathing symbol of the entire business sector. And in her own words, the bee basically confirms everything the turtle just laid out. She says her work isn't just about making honey for today. Expanding the hive, fixing the walls, all of this is work she's doing now to increase her ability to produce tomorrow. I mean, that is investment, right there in action. And this is where the fable gets really clever. It draws this direct, one-to-one connection between the bee's world and ours. Her hive? That's our factory. The wax she uses to build? Those are our machines and tools. Her honey stores? Those are our warehouses. The bee becomes this perfect allegory for all of industry and business. And so the fable starts to bring it all home, weaving together the lion's initial question, the turtle's deep wisdom, and the bee's real-world testimony into one powerful conclusion. The turtle wraps it up with this incredibly elegant summary. Consumption is vital, right? It keeps the engine of life running. But it's investment, that active building for the future, that actually increases the power and the potential of that life. And then the dove adds this final beautiful thought that brings our whole theme full circle. True understanding isn't just memorizing words or definitions. It's about seeing the form, the simple equations and the graphs, and connecting it to the content, the story of the bee, and what it all means in the real world. When you see how the two work together in harmony, that's when you really get it. That's real wisdom. Which, of course, leaves us with one final question to think about, a personal reflection sparked by all this ancient wisdom. As we go about our own lives, in our own work, in our own plans, it's probably worth asking ourselves, are we just consuming the seed for today, or are we planting the tree for tomorrow?